Great person, not bad to look at, but have a hard time breaking the ice? We've got your number. Call and meet lots of new people, or just listen in. Maybe you're fresh out of a relationship and ready to meet new people. We've got your number. Call Party Line and meet up to 8 people at a time. Sick of the single scene? We've got your number.
I'm so glad I called.
Me too. I really like your laugh.
Let's do it again soon.
Call now. A lot of great people are waiting to meet you. $3 plus toll if any.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Monster Truck fans, this is the video you've been waiting for. This is Bigfoot, king of the monster truck. 60 minutes of non-stop monster truck action that will blow you away. It's all new, brand new. You'll see it all from car-crushing heroics to dangerous monster truck rollovers, heart-pounding wheel stands, monster truck
All right. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Deadman Horror Show. Tonight's episode is about loneliness. It's about depression. It's about a cynical woman that's... the story we're going to read tonight, called Company by John Leahy. This story, you might actually root for this character. You might actually feel for her when you hear this story. But many of you, myself included, will see her... maybe as the villain, maybe. See, giving a little too much away. We're going to get into that story here. Like I said, it's about loneliness. It's about depression. Tonight, we're also going to get into, of course, what loneliness can lead to. Abusing substances, eating ourselves to death, right? Gorging down on ho-hos and Twinkies, falling deep into the depths of alcoholism and popping pills. What about murdering cats? What about collecting, hoarding cats, a huge number of them, over, I kid you not, over 75 cats, to the point to where, there's so much to go on there. And it's sad. That's a sad story. It's a sad story, and it is real. We're going to get into some weird stuff tonight. It's about Gahul winning. There is some overlap between this show and Guntwave. It's like I forgot about it, right? Guntwave. Yes, I guess Gahul winning. Gahul. I guess I could say it here. For those who like Guntwave, and more of you guys like Guntwave than you like the Deadman Horror Show, Gahul produced something that was much better than what he would normally do. So there's that. Could it have been better edited? Sure. But that's coming from somebody who obviously doesn't put any real effort or editing in any of his stuff, which is why he live streams everything in a one-take fashion. All right. Let's get into this, guys. Loneliness. Story of loneliness, and what would you do to overcome that? Let me ask you guys this, chat. I know it was later on in the comment section. Do you feel lonely? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel depressed? Jokes aside, no. I mean, I know I sound like an asshole when I'm asking that. Do you struggle with the feeling of being alone? Like nobody loves you, that nobody's ever going to love you. Do you ever feel like that? How do you handle it? I mean, there's always beer and cigars and live streaming, right? All right. Let's go and get into the story. Like I said, the story is called Company. It's by John Leahy. It's going to be featured in Hardcore Gothic, which is going to be it's a horror anthology. The stories have been selected. I will be doing the formatting and editing this week, and then you probably have it out by late November or early December. So there's that. Anyway, the story goes like this. Company by John Leahy. Upon entering her apartment, Priscilla checked the pedometer app on her phone, on her cell. She was pleased with herself. Over 6,500 again today. Not bad for an 80-year-old. She was in very good shape for her age. She was 5'10" and walked without even a hint of a stoop. There wasn't a pick of fat on her frame, but neither was she bone thin. The discipline of self-maintenance from her modeling days had stayed with her through the decades. She went into the living room and sat down. She browsed through the news sites on her cell for a while and then went to her bedroom. She went to the bureau beside her bed and pulled out the drawer containing various medicines. She took out the box of Thiamocidal and opened it. She removed one of the yellow tablets from the foil package and broke the tablet in half. She only wanted her 3 children with her this evening, and a half should be more than enough. She went into her ensuite and swallowed the tablet back with a glass of water. She went to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine, sat down, scrolling through her cell as she waited for the drug to take effect. One by one they appeared. They sat with her at the table, her 3 children, as they had been in their college days, Brandon, Audrey, and Francine. And at this point in real life, the trio were in their mid to late 40s. But when Priscilla wanted to have them with her and they couldn't be with her in reality, she would bring them to her as their college selves, burning with idealism and self-belief. After a brief discussion on the state of the economy, Priscilla directed the conversation to what she really loved to analyze, politics. I'm just going to do a little aside. This isn't part of the story, but politics and family discussions, guys, is that something y'all do? Is that something y'all ever do with success? No way, right? Let me know in the chat or in the comment section the last time you brought politics in a family dinner, especially Thanksgiving. Let's do that since it's almost Thanksgiving week. How did that go? How did it go? Are you going to bring up Kyle Rittenhouse? Are you going to bring up Kyle Rittenhouse as free and good for him? I mean, that's something I'll do, but no one wants to hear it. Okay, now we're getting back to the story. So here we are. Priscilla was talking about the economy, and she's directed conversation back to politics. The presidential election was less than 5 months away. Brandon, it was by, this is another segue, breaking here. It was by chance that the person's name is Brandon. I'm just now realizing it. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. It was a Republican as she. It's just a coincidence. I received this story before that meme came out, I think. So I think John might be in tune in something here. Okay, anyway, going back to the story. Brandon was a Republican, as was she, while Audrey and Francine were 2 staunch Democrats. liberals. Brandon pointed a karate chop hand across the table at his sisters. Do you really expect Robertson to just roll over and accept this? I mean, well, if she wasn't so insecure, yes, Audrey iterated. Brandon's face scrunched up indignantly. Insecure he was, or he said, Camille Robertson isn't insecure about anything. She has no issues with immigration. She has no issues with immigrants are gender fluid. But what she does have an issue with is her lobby groups seeking extra firepower from the state. I mean, what do they have to... I mean, they want to be equal? Does that not mean that they shouldn't get any more funding pumped into their causes than anybody else? Oh, that's a clever way of sidelining certain marginalized groups, isn't it? I'm not sidelining anything, Brendan said. I just don't want to see any particular group in society getting an unfair advantage over others. Equal means equal. Also called marginalized groups should just get the same funding as everybody else, as every other cohort. Priscilla took a sip of wine and smiled. She loved these juicy bits. Well now, Francine said, gazing across the table at her brother. You want everybody to be equal all of a sudden, especially with regard to funding. For Christ's sake, immigrants and gender fluid have been given the short shrift by mainstream society for decades. They should be given extra funding so they can shoulder the bullies aside and take the place in the world. I went on. I gotta say, getting away from the story. If I had this conversation at Thanksgiving dinner, I would not be able to hold myself back. I couldn't. I'd be like, hold on here. You lost me even at gender fluid. Let's talk about that. But we'll get into it. Going back to the story. It went on in this passionate vein, sometimes approaching a quite heated level as the two girls defended Jed Fincher, the Democrat candidate, against their brothers and mother's joint assault on Fincher's policies in health and tax reform. As the drug wore off, the forms of Priscilla's guests began to grow slowly transparent, their voices growing fainter in tandem. Eventually they were gone completely. Priscilla recalled 3 nights before she had taken a full pill and had summoned all 8 of her grandchildren. She smiled to herself as she recalled them running full pelt in and out of every room in the spacious apartment, chasing each other around the table she was sitting at and jumping on the couch and on her bed. She stood and went into the living room, where she sat down and turned on the TV. Her eyelids heavy after 2 glasses of wine she flicked through the channels before sitting on one show, the Republican president candidate, Camille Robertson, greeting her supporters in Kentucky, shaking eager hands and kissing babies. Having made history and becoming the first female Republican candidate, she was ahead of Jed Fincher in the polls and expected to go on and make even more history by becoming the first female president. Well, these stories are just, we don't know what the future holds. I guess the way things are, Kamala might actually be, right? I gotta say, John Leahy could see the future a little bit with Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. But missed the mark on this one. I'm just messing with him. Let's see. I'm busting his balls a little bit. Going back to the story. Tall and slim, dark-haired, with a gorgeous smile. With a glorious smile, and always immaculately dressed. She looked every inch a future leader of the country. Priscilla's deceased husband, Dick, would have loved her. Priscilla could imagine Dick standing before the television, one hand in his pocket and the other grasping a tumbler of whiskey, his eyes crawling all over the beautiful woman on the screen. When she opened her eyes, it was dark outside. She looked at her watch and saw that it was after 10. She had been asleep for nearly 2 hours. She turned off the television and went to her bedroom. She got dressed for bed and climbed into the sheets. She turned to her bedside bureau and lifted a box of thermocidal from beneath the lamp there. She had forgotten to replace it in the medicine drawer earlier. She opened the drawer and was about to drop the box into it when she paused. She lifted the box toward her and sat up in bed. She studied the box. The world's first drug for loneliness. It was nothing short of a marvel of modern medicine. Its projected sales in the 10 years ahead were set to make its manufacturer Rixent Pharmaceuticals the world's first trillion-dollar drug company. With the world's population rising, people living longer, the number of people living alone, whether through their own choice or not, was rising dramatically. Stock market analysts predicted these lone livers, as society was beginning to call them. Let's see. So stock market analysts predicted that these lone livers, as society were beginning to call them, to protect themselves from poor mental health that accompanied isolation and would turn to thermocidal. The analysts presumed that the governments in wealthier jurisdictions would subsidize the price of the drug to prevent suicide. Yeah. Currently, the drug was only available at full price, $1,200 for a box of 20 tablets. Not that it bothered Priscilla. She had made a lot of money in her modeling career, and upon the death of her husband 10 years earlier, had become wealthier still. Now, how the drug worked was intriguing. In order to cause the user to see and hear people they wish to have in their company, the drug accessed the brain's memory center and then stimulated the visual and auditory cortices. This resulted in a projection of the people that the user wished to engage with to appear before their eyes. This projection could be interacted with and would talk to them and behave accordingly to the memories of that person that lay in the user's mind. Now, aside from this, to achieve something like this in real life, I would imagine you'd need some sort of like nanobot technology. I don't know. Like that would be crazy. Like you would need some sort of, you would have to put some sort of computer chip to produce something like that. But I don't know. And I will say, still aside here, I've looked into this a little bit. There are some people trying to research pills on how to can loneliness be cured by a pill, and I'm not talking to just depression and anxiety and that sort of thing. I'm talking about loneliness, specifically loneliness. And yes, they are working on trying to cure loneliness with a pill, because why not, right? There's money to be made there. Anyway. The day after it had gone on the market, Priscilla had bought her first box. It wasn't that she was a recluse. She got out every day and met people. But the evenings in the large apartment could be so long and silent. None of her children lived in Los Angeles anymore. Brandon was in Seattle, and the two girls were on the East Coast. Her 4 siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, had been older than her and had passed away. On the day she parked outside the pharmacy on West Pico Boulevard, there had been a small band of people protesting outside the door. Thermocidal had its detractors, the main concern being that the possible long-term effects of taking a drug that produced visions. Critics argued that thermocidal was essentially a schizophrenia inducer. I can see that. What if the projections didn't dissipate after the drug wore off? The world could end up having millions of older people walking around talking to themselves all day. Priscilla hadn't been bothered by this sentiment, but she had been taken aback upon reading about a woman who suffered a brain hemorrhage, after having consumed 7 of the tablets in one go. The 85-year-old, who had made a full recovery, had summoned over 50 projections to a get-together in her large country house. The warning on the box that Priscilla held before her now proclaimed in bold print that under no circumstances should more than 2 tablets be consumed in one sitting. Priscilla opened the box. She took out the remaining half of the tablet that she had consumed earlier and swallowed it with a drink of water. A few minutes later, a figure appeared in the bedroom door. The form was hideous. Its skin burnt, almost black. Her husband's face was unrecognizable in the damage. A dart of bitter, raging satisfaction rushed through Priscilla. Then it dissipated. When it dissipated, she spoke. "Hello, Dick." The burnt nightmare was gone. Now Dick Monet stood before her, silver-haired and handsome. He moved toward the bed. Priscilla could feel a lump rising in her throat. God, it was so good to see him again. Even after all he had done to her, all the affairs, she still loved him 10 years after his death. 10 years. 10 years after she had killed him. She had him killed. Him and his latest little trollop. Unfortunately for Dick, he had been a banker for the most dubious businessmen and women of Los Angeles. He and Priscilla had dinner parties with them on occasion, and Priscilla had gotten to know a little about various entities in the West Coast underworld. She had paid an unscrupulous computer hacker $2 million to hack into Dick's self-driving car when he was supposedly away on a business weekend. The hacker had taken control of the car a few miles north of San Simeon, and had sent it plunging through a guardrail into a deep ravine. The car's battery had caught on fire, gutting the car, leaving its trapped occupants a little more than blackened husks. Dick was walking around the bed toward the other side, tears wellowing in her eyes. Priscilla smiled at him and pulled back the covers. Now, like I said, this story is about loneliness, but more than that, though. And we'll get into loneliness and what it drives people to do. But this particular story here, like I said, some of you might feel for this Priscilla, but some of you might see her as the villain. That's where I lean. I could see the other side where maybe Priscilla, was she right to have her husband dead, have him killed for having affairs on her, for cheating on her? I look at this and I'm like, well, I don't know. It seems like her kids don't want anything to do with her. Seems like her kids are too busy to spend time with her. And that where she has to take these schizophrenia pills and play around with illusions. She's pretty much taken DMT. A shit ton of DMT. Imagine that. Imagine if you could take a pill that would produce visions that you could control and you can interact with. Imagine that. An LSD trip an acid trip that you have full control over. You're not you're not at the mercy of whatever your brain throws out there, but you are controlling it. You can interact with them. That is, at something. And to be driven to that, you would have to be, I would imagine you would have to be lonely. So we're looking at Priscilla here. Is she a scorned lover? Yes. She's a scorned lover. She wanted her husband dead. Well, she got him dead. And the siblings probably know what's up, which is why they don't spend much time with her. They probably suspect something. Maybe. She was a model. She was a model. Are you going to tell me that she was 100% faithful during her time with her husband? No. I look at this story and say Priscilla here is she's evil. She's evil incarnate. Now, I'm not saying that her husband was a saint, but there's different levels of evil. Did her husband kill somebody over jealousy? No. I think the things that really stood out with me at this story is that the part at the end. Okay, it's going along. I kind of sat on the story for a little bit because the politics discussion in the middle part of the story, and I was like, okay, well, I mean that is real, kind of realistic for what happens with family get-togethers. Okay. And I guess there are families out there that enjoy that. Man, when politics comes up, I'm like, I already know you're not going to like what I'm going to say. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And if you have a problem with it, that's fine. Or I'll just smoke a cigar on the back. And if you want to hear it, you come out. Or if you just want to chill and not talk about politics, we could do that too. So loneliness. What can loneliness drive us to do, man? Loneliness drives us to do a lot of horrible things to ourselves. I mean, loneliness is part of the reason why people feel so depressed. Loneliness will drive people to, get lost in drugs, get lost in opiates and fentanyl and meth or whatever. I mean, it's crazy, but it happens. Well, it's not really crazy. People seem more isolated now. And being connected on Facebook or Twitter or whatever people use, it's not helping. It's definitely not helping loneliness. I mean, there's a recent study out where Facebook isn't helping anything at all. In fact, Facebook, when you use it, all these people that go on there, I guess they want to connect with friends, but they don't actually have friends in real life or see them in real life. What they end up doing is they start ruminating over the perceived success and happiness of friends and family members, people that they feel like they get jealous over. They feel that envy. Why not me? They start looking at their sister, start looking at their aunt, or looking at their friend, looking at their cousin, and be like, why do they have that car? Or why are they wearing that makeup? Why do they have that life? Why are they constantly going to the club or going to the beach or whatever? How come I don't have that? Not understanding that a lot of that stuff is just projection anyway. A lot of that stuff is, just a lot of this Instagram posts and TikTok where it's just constantly like, oh, here's my life, here's the food I eat, here's my car, here's my glam, here's all the stuff I do, like all that stuff. It's like painting for a hollow shell. The hollow shell is the nothingness that they are. It's just a front. The people who do that, they're signaling out because they're looking for, some of them anyway, validation for their lives. If the people that get really stung by envy, when they're looking at all these other posts, all the Facebook pages and stuff like that, if they were to notice that, take that into account, maybe they wouldn't get so lonely. Maybe it would have driven them so fucking crazy, deeper into depression. But you have, loneliness leads to depression. It can. It does, obviously. That's a no-brainer there. And it's a real topic. Now, just some of you guys that probably feel really lonely and probably afraid to talk about it, don't want to talk about it because you're getting too real. But it's a thing. I mean, how many of you know somebody who's on SSRIs or some sort of antidepressant or depression? What's going on? How many people do you know that are in that situation that you would probably describe as lonely? Like they don't really do much. They kind of isolate themselves. They're pretty much a shut-in. Now, I'm not saying loneliness is the only reason why someone would suffer from clinical depression or anything, but it is a factor there. I mean, that's something you can look up yourself, obviously. But you have these people that are feeling, because of the loneliness, or they fall deep into depression, they get on these SSRIs, these antidepressants, which... do they help? Can you take a pill to cure your depression? Can you take a pill for that? Well, it's going to alter your brain chemistry. You're going to feel better if you follow through with it. The problem is, if you still feel like your life is shit and not worth living, you might actually follow through with certain things. There's a reason why those pills have a warning. It's a reason why every time you see a commercial for Zoloft or Prozac or whatever, they have to warn you that there's suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts. There's even studies on this stuff where, there are people that take those antidepressants and SSRIs when they suffer from anxiety, or when they suffer anxiety and depression or whatever, that they get suicidal thoughts. And some of them act on them. And are those things overprescribed? Are they? Are they overprescribed? It's childish. Comparison is the theft of joy. You are right. You're absolutely right there. Thank you for the 2 people watching. Thank you. Gahu is lonely. Gahu is lonely. I guarantee you, Gahu is lonely. Like, let's be real here, chat. Glands. Let's be real. How do you handle absolute silence by yourself? How do you handle that? Glands, Jay, and whoever else, the 3 other people that are watching. How do you handle just sitting in silence by yourself? Can you do it? For how long? Can you be alone and be happy? Can you be alone and be to yourself, not even talk to people online? Just be removed from everything, everyone. How long can you do that and be happy? That's tough. Not a lot of people could do that. They will distract themselves as much as they can with TV, books, manga, anime, games, porn, lots of porn. But imagine if you had none of those distractions. Now we're getting loneliness and absolute boredom together. Oh my God. Especially you get loneliness and a lack of drive, I guess. A lack of self-determination. Oh, now we're just creating a bigger issue, a bigger problem. I couldn't do that. To sit in a room or just be in a house by myself, with nothing to do, like no project to work on, not even streaming, not even playing a game, no access to my phone, just I would go mad. I'd end up sitting out on the back porch and just, I guess, being to myself. Now, we do other things with loneliness. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people eat themselves. Eat themselves into a gun form, almost to death, and even to death because of loneliness, right? They eat to cope. They'll use drugs. They'll drink heavily because they feel alone. They surround themselves with people that just use them, that don't really like them, just see them for money or like them because of their perceived value. Okay? We know people like this, like Ethan Ralph. I mentioned quite a bit on Gunt Wave. And what we're finding now, and I said before, but some of you guys didn't believe me, even PPP. You could think of other examples. People that surround themselves with people that just use them, that see them as a perceived value there. They don't really have a friend. They have opportunists and manipulators. They have snakes. Chat. People in the comments afterwards. Is it better to be friends with snakes or to be friends with an imaginary friend? Like, is it better to be friends with snakes or to make a stuffed animal your friend? Or to be like one of those incels that make an anime doll their friend? That's another thing that loneliness can lead to. Loneliness, and I guess virginity combined can lead to dating virtual girlfriends, which is something that happens. That's a real thing. Not just virtual girlfriends, or they're like literal digital form, just like an anime thing. Sometimes they'll print out the anime character and paste it on a pillow, or they'll just actually get a pillow designed like them, or they'll even get a sex doll. I knew somebody, I should say, growing up. This story is crazy. That's a reason why I have a dead cat on the thumbnail. Because no one would ever believe that loneliness could lead to dead cats. That loneliness could lead to a woman thinking it's a good idea to strangle cats, throw them around, decapitate them, and put their heads on sticks and put that in the backyard around a bonfire. This woman is Terry Carmichael. And Terry Carmichael is one of the worst human beings I've ever seen. I used to live in a trailer park when I was a kid. She was in that trailer park. She was in the back. No one talked to her. I don't believe in witches, but I'm pretty sure if witches do exist, if they did exist, she would be one. There's no way what she did wasn't for some sort of a satanic ritual or anything like that. It was a shitty trailer park. With no regulations out in the county. You had dog fightings and shit like that too. We capture. My friends and I would go around trying to collect frogs. And there'd be people doing dog fights. So, crazy time. Crazy shit. Another crazy story? One time, we had a bunch of pigs. Later on. This has nothing to do with the story about the cat lady. I was good. I'll save that story for another time. The time where it was a good idea to jump into a hog pen and smash hog faces with a sledgehammer. But that's something I did. No. Well, that's something my family did. So that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. That wasn't for loneliness. That was because we wanted to get rid of the pigs. And, well, apparently that's actually a pretty ethical way to kill them. And send them to a slaughterhouse. Actually, they were gutted there. They were killed and gutted there on the scene. And then taken to be processed. Anyway, the cats, however, the cat story, no cats were gutted as far as I know. This woman had over 75 cats. She had a shit ton of cats. Maybe it was just all the stray cats just collected at her trailer. Maybe that's what it is. But she had a bunch of cats. I remember talking to her, asking why she has so many cats. She would say that a few came at a time. Then there was a flood in the area, and she wasn't able to get out. She was going to take the cats to a shelter. That didn't happen. So one thing led to another. Those cats started breeding. And then because of, I guess, laziness, she didn't take them anywhere, do anything with them. She just let things be, and the babies, the litter, they grew up and they started breeding with their sisters, their siblings. So all these cats were inbred. They're walking all drunk and shit, had deformed eyes. So they weren't like the cute cats you see on TikTok or anything like that. They weren't God's chosen. Okay, they were horrible spawns of the product of a recluse that didn't care. This Terry Carmichael. But she said she kept them around because she felt lonely. She said she felt lonely. It was just her in the trailer and all her fucking cats. And I still to this day don't understand how she would keep the cats around because she felt lonely. But behind the trailer, it was seen, or further behind, like behind in these woods, around this burn pit, were a bunch of cat heads. It was like 5 cat heads on sticks around a bonfire. Who the fuck does that? Who does that? A crazy person, right? A total, complete psychopath does that shit. Now, am I saying loneliness could lead to that? Why not? That's crazy. You get so lonely you want to have do some sort of satanic ritual, sacrifice cats. So crazy. Oh man. Outrageous stuff. We didn't stay in that trailer park. We left. I've not been back since. I don't want to go back there. Seems like anymore it'd be brimming with all sorts of characters. But this woman, this Terry Carmichael, it was weird, man. Really weird. By herself. If she had a family member or a friend that would be in contact with her and would see her, maybe they could have pulled her out from that situation. But they didn't. Now, that's like the craziest thing you're going to hear tonight on this Deadman Horror Show about loneliness. I mean, most people, when they feel lonely, they don't want to talk to people, which I understand because people are shit. You know, they take in a pet. Maybe one pet, maybe two. They don't breed a bunch of them and blame it on a flood and then sacrifice them to Satan or whatever. They don't do that shit. Most people, if getting a dog or cat or pet isn't helping, maybe they will see a doctor. Maybe the doctor will just recommend things. Maybe they'll hit the gym and realize, working out will kind of help too. And will kind of build up the confidence. Maybe you're lonely because why are people lonely? Right? You gotta think, okay, so someone's very lonely. Someone's feeling like that. And they're feeling depressed because of that. Do they need to be on medication? Or do they just need to take control of their life and change things? Is this something that can be changed with behavior and decisions? Does it always have to be medication? I mean, if you go see a psychiatrist, they might just give you medication regardless because it makes them money. You're feeling depressed? What's going on? You don't have any friends? You don't talk to anybody? Yeah, it sounds like depression. Here you go. Here's a script. It's not that simple. Is it that simple? I mean, it seems like it is. I mean, I've heard stories and I've seen examples. I used to work at a psych facility. And, I mean, there's people that would say that they're depressed and they'll be evaluated. And it's like, well, what are the other factors going on in their life? What else is going on? Does it have to be a pill? Immediately? I know mental health facilities in the area, outpatient clinics, that from one assessment, from one evaluation, that's all they need, and they'll prescribe you. What do they get from that 1 hour with you that really tells them that you need a pill? And don't forget that I did mention, and I wasn't lying about this or anything like that, that while there are medications for depression and anxiety, they're trying to find ways to make medication specifically for loneliness. Now, of course, this article was from 2019. I pulled this information from, but I did go to the University of Chicago site. And they're still doing trials, the Project Loneliness. They're trying to work on a drug that could potentially address that. The way it operates, let's see. It activates a certain neurotransmitter. One that I don't recall hearing about before. I'm gonna butcher this. I'm not sure if there's a neurotransmitter. It's called oh great, I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation. Pregnenolone. What? Pregnenolone. It works with that. That chemical is related with stress. Now, how reducing stress will help reduce loneliness, I don't know how that would work. Maybe feel less. I don't understand how medication is supposed to help you when you're in a situation of loneliness. Just numb the feeling, reduce the sort of pain you feel, the emptiness you feel. Guys, this is a little bit more raw and more emotional of a show, I feel like. And we need to have could we do a therapy stream? Guntwave isn't about therapy. You know, could not do a therapy stream with Guntwave. Because the number one rule of Guntwave is no one is your friend. No one on the internet is your friend. All right. Check out Guntwave on Monday nights. And the operation there, the way I operate with that show is no one on the internet, especially people like me or any other YouTuber you see, they're not your friend. They're not friends with each other. They're not my friend anyway. Anyway, were you saying, Lens? When I was put on Prozac as a kid, I would walk to school on the double yellow lines. I became like a lifeless object, like a rock, indifferent to living or dying. See, and that's the thing too, man. Like, when they say this medication, this stuff you take, like Prozac, could lead to suicidal ideation, suicide behavior, it's not just that. It's that you also just don't care. You just don't care. Don't care about living or dying. I mean, what if this is all, what I'm about to say is very real for a lot of people. They probably just don't realize it. We are not always, I mean, this, I don't know why I'm even coaching this or putting this much effort in what I'm about to say. We're not the best judge of our own behavior, of our own reason for behavior at times. Like, especially when it comes to emotion. Okay, when it comes to emotion, do we know 100% why we feel what we feel? Do we? You might say yes. You know, some might disagree. But if you're at the point where you're talking to someone who's supposed to be an expert or specialist, and they're asking you how you feel, and you say, I'm feeling all right. And they're like, okay, well, tell me more about that all right. Could you feel better? Well, yeah, I could feel better. Tell me more about that. Maybe there is an issue that day. Maybe you have an issue with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or have an issue with a family member, have some issues, you have some doubts about stuff. You have some conflict with somebody, conflict with yourself, maybe a lack of self-worth, feeling like you're worthless, feeling like you're not hitting certain goals. So, what's the point? Maybe you're feeling, what's the point of living? Maybe you realize that the point of life is a bunch of bullshit until you die. The point of life is to suffer pain, some pleasure here and there, and then you're dead. Well, why don't you just jump to the end? If we're all gonna die, why don't you just jump to the end and be done with it? Some people realize that, and there's truth to that. I could see that. It's an oversimplification of it all. But you talk to an expert about that. They go, you know what? You need medication. Let's try Prozac or Zoloft or whatever. Name the brand. So you start taking that medication. And maybe you just so happen to fall in that percentage that it's not really working. At least it's not working as intended. And I mean, there's a reason why a lot of the mass shooters are on medication. There's a reason why. There's a pattern there. When you start seeing a pattern with these dangerous criminals, mass shooters, and all that, you start seeing a pattern of violent behavior, antipsychotics, antidepressants, and of course, access to weapons. There's a reason for that pattern. Of course, the reason why I'm bringing this up is like the story I read before, I read during the show, is that in that story, this work of fiction, there is a drug in this work of fiction that would cure your loneliness. So if loneliness, your inability to connect with somebody, have no one around you that you can have a conversation with or have a happy moment with, if that's what you need, if that's going to help you, there you go. I mean, if you guys had that opportunity, had that chance, I'm sure some of you guys would take something like that. If they had a pill for loneliness that make you see things like in a schizophrenic way, so that way you could have your own. Well, they don't need that. They don't really need it as a pill. But if they did, I could see pharmaceutical companies really pushing that. But with VR technology, so you think your life is shit because you have this bad relationship with your dad or whatever. Maybe your dad abused you when you were a kid. Maybe your dad abandoned you. You have fragmented memories. Here, put this VR set on. We're gonna play this program. It will connect little things to your head, to your brain, and we'll kind of pull from the memory the image of your dad and all that, and that way you can kind of go through the memories and purge them from it, or you can create new memories of you doing something in a totally different way, which could change how you feel about it. That would be an interesting thing to see in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if we do that. I mean, the VR technology, I don't think is there yet. I haven't seen anything to show that you can in any way actually project what somebody is, what they're saying in their mind eye. If they have that, that'd be absolutely insane. Google that right now. I don't know. I don't think so. I guarantee you they're working on that. And when I say they, all sorts of groups. Let's see. Well, 2016, this article here from India Times, scientists have found a way to hack our mind and project images. Okay. Can we project our thoughts? Scientists have found a way to hack our mind and project our thoughts on a screen. Oh, okay. What? For real? No way. There's no way it looks like a movie, though. How would that look? They say this in an article. Like, I could read this article, that's fine, but I'd want to see it. I'd be like, show this to me. Show me like a video of it. Show me somebody, If you say it could project what they're thinking, do it on a live stream. When you're live streaming, you put the little device on their head and you project that out. Live stream, no funky editing going on there. And let's see. But I don't know. I'd be real skeptical with that shit. This is the article I'm looking at right here. Well, it's all messed up right there. So I'm looking at it. Let's see. I guess I'll look into this a little bit since it's kind of related. With technology slowly but surely reaching that point where we begin to question, even fear it, scientists have managed to find a new mind-reading system that projects everything that we think of on a screen. So it'd be pretty much like Pornhub for me. In a world where global surveillance has become a part of our daily lives, our mind was the only place inaccessible by a foreign entity. Okay, so I want to see this, though. How does this work? Let's see. Journal of Neuroscience at 23 volunteers. They're shown 1,000 photographs of random faces with their brains connected to an fMRI machine. Tell me you have something more than that. Because an MRI, all that's going to do is show activity, brain activity. That's good and all. They used an artificial intelligence program aimed to read the brain activities of the volunteers. Captured a mathematical description of the faces. Oh. Okay. Well, holy well, okay, wait a second. This. Okay. So they use an MRI machine and they use artificial intelligence to break down like the mathematics or whatever of what you're seeing and then use that to kind of recreate the image based on that, right? So the recreation, let me show this to you guys. This is what I'm looking at here. I know the Windows share I'm using right here is really meant for YouTube. Let me, I guess, fix the cropping on that. There you go. Okay, so this is the original image that they would show of faces. Here you have this is like Dick Masterson, and this is I don't know, the new Faye Valentine and the Netflix live action of Cowboy Bebop, which is not good. These are the original faces, and this is. I gotta read more here, but these are like the recreations of trying to recreate the image based on the mathematics pulled from the brain activity, what the brain was doing. So it doesn't. It doesn't recreate it perfectly, but I see this. It kind of makes sense though. Because, I don't know about you, but my dreams, people's detail, it always looks blurry. It always looks weird, you know? Anyway. That is interesting stuff. Got to look more into that. Because while I like this story that we read here today, I think the technology for this is going to be in more... Well, the method to do this is going to be through technology. I'm not sure about using drugs, like using a pill to, project people. But it's something that people are trying to pursue, and be very interesting to see if how that works and how that carries out. But I like the twist at the end when you find out that really Priscilla in this story I read is not a good person. She's just not. That's my takeaway from it. Yeah, her husband was cheating on her, but she hacked her car, or she got someone to hack her car, or his car, got him killed, and then her own kids want nothing to do with her because she just wants them to talk about politics for her own entertainment, on her own enjoyment. That's the other thing too. She's so obsessed with politics. Maybe that's the thing. The other takeaway, company. And if anything, I didn't realize this, but maybe the story is really just a fable about what happens if you're that family member that just obsess about politics at the dinner table. They're going to want nothing to do with you. Your kids will be like, oh, no, never mind. Glands, if you had the jab, then MRI is probably pretty dangerous. Oh, probably. So, all right. So, yeah, this was the Deadman horror shows, they're typically about an hour long. I try to keep them an hour and precise. Read the story, talk about related stuff, have some fun with that, kind of explore some stuff here. I have more beers and more cigars. Could fire up another stream where we talk about other things, but we'll see. Anyway, with that said, you guys take it easy. You have a good one.
Great person, not bad to look at, but have a hard time breaking the ice. We've got your number. Call and meet lots of new people, or just listen in.